Genesis chapter 4. We're going to start reading today in verse number 1. Genesis 4, verse number 1. Now Adam knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have acquired a man from the Lord. She bore again this time his brother Abel. Now Abel was the keeper of the sheep, but Cain was the tiller of the ground. And in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to the Lord. Abel also brought of the firstborn of the flock and of the fat. And the Lord respected Abel and his offering, but he did not respect Cain and his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. So the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? And why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door. Do we hear something? Do we hear something?
Yes.
We ought to be hearing something.
Right.
Let's see if sin went to sleep. I don't think sin is supposed to go to sleep. There's sin. I don't think sin can hear me. Sin missed its cue. What was that? Knock on it again. Sin is knocking at the door. So the title of today's message is Shut the Door. Come on, Sin. Shut the door on sin.
That's right. Yeah.
Now you can come on in. He said he couldn't hear us. That's pretty good soundproofing there, right? We're going to talk about shutting the door on sin. You're all right. You're fine. He said, if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it.
Right.
This message is going to be for somebody today. Now Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against his brother and killed his brother. And the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel, your brother? He said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and a vagabond you shall be upon the earth. We'll stop there. What's the title of the message? Shut the door on. Shut the door on sin. This is a very interesting passage of Scripture, and if you're not careful, you miss over some really important parts. Many of us have heard this story since we've been children. But very seldom do we take in consideration that Cain had a relationship with God. We make the villains. Yeah, we're really strong about our feelings toward the villains. You know? Things that they've done wrong echo in our minds. And so we don't really have a very good opinion of Cain. And of course, the Bible called him a base man. We know his priorities weren't right. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But the truth is that Cain had a relationship with God. So how do you know that? Well, first of all, he was sacrificing to the Lord, which is more than some of us do. Take a big deep breath. If you smile and you're happy, people will never know that this is hitting you hard. Okay? It's really, amen. Praise God, that's good. Okay, so anyway, he had a relationship with God. He was giving. He was doing the things he ought to do. And the Lord was talking to him. James, he was talking to him. That meant the Lord was close to him. You remember, the Lord would come to them in those days and actually come and walk with them and speak to them personally. They actually heard the voice of the Lord speaking to them. So God was talking to Cain and dealing with him and speaking to him. And he was asking him, so why are you bummed out? What's your issue? You know, I think the Lord was doing this in a loving way. He was seeing that. And obviously, God wasn't pleased in what he'd done. Whenever you do something halfway, or you know in your heart, don't you?
Yes. Right.
That it just wasn't right. We already know that. We're already kind of suffering through the condemnation of it. And so we're dealing with it in our own way, because we know when we do good and when we don't do good.
Right.
And the Lord had respect to Abel's offering and did not have respect to Cain's offering. Now, how that was shown, I'm not sure. I don't understand exactly how all that was known. But obviously, there was communicated in some way that God respected one offering over another. It may have been audibly that the Lord said something. Could have been. Whatever the case, it was understood by Cain that his offering wasn't accepted, but his brother's offering was. Now, at this point, we need to recognize some things about why. Some of you might have an idea of why that Cain's offering was not accepted, but Abel's offering was. All right? What was Cain? What did he do? Tiller of the ground. He sowed seed in the ground and was able to reap the harvest of fruit, whatever it was that he was planting. He was a farmer in the sense of planting things. His brother was a shepherd. Everybody say a shepherd. And a shepherd had the sheep, and the sheep was livestock, and the sheep also contained an essential element, and that element was what when it comes to sacrifice? Blood. So God instituted blood sacrifice early on. And some of you might even understand where, some of you wouldn't. But when the first sacrifice was done, God himself actually done the sacrifice. The Lord actually took the first animal's life. He did so to make a covering for Adam and Eve. He took the skins of the animal and placed it upon Adam and Eve as a covering. Therefore, giving us the type and the shadow that without the shedding of blood, there's no covering or remission of sins. Can I hear an amen? Amen. So all of your righteousness is not going to be good enough, and everything you try to sew together to cover up is never going to get it done. Most of us have heard that message. But it's an important one. And let me submit to you that Cain probably actually knew this. He knew that that was the sacrifice that was needed to cover sin, and that's what God was looking for. But because of one reason or another, now there's several reasons it comes to mind, okay? Because of being a human. Are you a human? Okay. Being a human, do you operate on the principle of what comes easy for you? Look at me. Yes, you do. There's some things in our life that come easy, that are easily accessible. easily done. And so, as much as we think we sacrifice to come to church, look at us. Look at what we do. We get in a nice car, turn on the air conditioning, listen to music as we're going down the road, enjoying the ride all the way, come into a beautiful church, sit down in air conditioning, listen to some great music, right? And we sit here and do our God thing, and we've made our sacrifice for the week. But for some of us, that's what we think. It's what we feel, because that's the way it's always been for us. Maybe it's time that we know some more about this, because God's looking for something else. He says He wants a living sacrifice, folks. It's holy and acceptable unto Him, and that's your reasonable service. That's what He's expecting from you, for your life to be a living sacrifice. So that means more than just coming to church. But it's easy, because it's all about that, right? It's what we do. We've in our society, that's the way, quote unquote, that we serve the Lord, is we go to some church. It's kind of a rude awakening. I preached this for years, but I've always told people the most dangerous place you can be is sitting in a church pew.
Right.
And the reason why is what? Some of you know. Because by the virtue of the fact that you're here, you feel like because of that, everything between you and God is hunky-dory. I went to church this Sunday. Coming to church does not make you righteous or holy.
That's right.
It doesn't mean that you really sacrifice that much. I mean, sure, we done what was convenient. We got the fruit that we messed with, and we said, here you go, God, this is yours. But you know all the time it's not what God's after. More than that. There's redemption involved. There's a participation in that redemption. There's interaction with God. There's interaction with the body. There's interaction in the sacrifice, taking up your cross and following after the Lord.
Right.
Amen. Don't ever forget that. He's given us an example that we should follow in His steps. It wasn't an easy route. Straight is the gate, narrow is the pathway that leads to righteousness, but there's few that's going to find it. Because broad is the way that leads to destruction. And everybody looks like they're going that way.
Yes.
And it's convenient, and it's broad, and it's easy.
Yes.
So, it's a happy message in it. Sin's lying at the door. It's knocking at the door. It's waiting on us. And the reason why we're susceptible to that is because one of the first things that happen is this. It's not so much our sin, it's our lack of worship with God. It's our lack of relationship with God. It's a lack of being close to God. It's a lack of respecting God. That's where the initial problem lies. Look at me. If we had a true worship relationship with God, then we wouldn't be listening so much to the knock on the door. How many knows that's the truth? You've been in a good prayer meeting. You've been around a great service where you felt the presence of the Lord. Are you going to go home and turn on something on the TV that you shouldn't watch? Look at me. Probably not. It's going to take a few days for that to wear thin. And then after your conscience is eased for a little bit, you'll go in after the devil works on you, and you'll start doing the old habits again. So the more you stay close to God, the more you have a relationship with God, the more that God is your priority, the less likely it is that you're going to answer the door when sin comes knocking. Well, that's an easy message, but it's one that we really need to get. We need to learn how to rule over that. That's what the Lord said. You've got to learn. You're going through something right now that's really crappy, and you're not where you need to be, and you know you're not where you need to be, and it's feeling pretty strange right now between me and you. But I want you to be aware of what's getting ready to happen. And you need to be aware of it because this thing is getting ready to get a hold of you if you're not careful.
Right.
If you don't keep your priorities right, and if I was Cain at that moment, I'd have said, wait a minute, you've got my number right here. I repent.
Yes.
I've been feeling some bad things, and this is my fault, God, because I knew better.
Right.
I could have been doing what you wanted me to do.
Yes.
I should have been doing this instead of that. Well, I'm preaching to somebody right now. You know, when I should have seen that I was getting a little weak. Look, folks, the Bible says to examine yourself. Do this, like you do that, like you're taking your pulse. How many nurses do I have in the room? Come on, Dulce, raise your hand. Glad to have you back, Dulce. I love you, Dulce. Dulce's one of my favorite people. Dulce, I'm taking my pulse. Why do I take my pulse? I want to see if I'm alive. That's really important because, you know, if your pulse, if your spiritual pulse isn't strong, you need to pay attention to that. Because some things can happen when you get weak. The Bible said, be strong in the Lord and the power of His might. Put on the whole armor of God. Why? Because the devil's coming.
That's it.
He's coming, and it's these high and lofty spirits, not just small little demons.
That's right.
Principalities and powers and rulers of darkness of this world and spiritual wickedness in high places.
Right.
Those spirits that come and knock on your door are pretty strong.
Right.
And guess what? They've dealt with your grandpa and your great-grandpa and your great-grandma, and they've watched you since you've been a little one. They know all the intricate things they can do to tempt you.
That's right.
All the things that you've fallen for in the past. They know when you're vulnerable.
Right.
Right? Satan's sly. He knows exactly when to attack and how to attack and what to bring to you. And he knows the moments to do it.
Right. That's right.
It's true. And we all have tendencies.
Yeah.
Say tendencies. There's not one of you that don't have a tendency. We call them generational curses. We call them a lot of things, but you have tendencies. Right? Think about what your tendency is, right? And don't speak it out. You know, I don't want to hear the ugly truth about you. Somebody next to you might want to move after they hear that. Some it's pills, some of it's alcohol, some of it's, you know, lust, it's this, it's that, it's the other. And if you were honest, you would have to say, man, that's been in my family. I've had to fight that. I've had to deal with that. And some of you are like me, you can't pass up a good McDonald's. When I go, I just can't eat just a McNugget. I gotta have a Big Mac. Bless God.
Yeah.
And a milkshake. And French fries. And after that, I gotta wash it down with a pie. Glory to God for the Lord. Easy. Some of us have our tendencies. All of us do. And we need to realize that sometimes as we go along the way, the devil's been observing. He knows just exactly when to bring that temptation.
Yes. That's right.
His countenance had fallen. He was having a hard time. Beware of this. Sometimes the Holy Spirit causes people to talk to you. Don't look at me. Don't get upset because somebody comes to you and says, I've been concerned for you. I've been praying for you. You ought to thank God.
That's right.
You ought to thank God. God's coming and He's speaking to you. He's not doing it in person. He's sending an ambassador to say, I care about you.
Right.
Let me make you a cake. You look like you're about ready to pass out here. Elijah. Got to know the story, right? I want to give you the strength to endure this. The Lord comes and He's so cool, so wonderful to him. And He's telling him this, giving him every opportunity. But yet anger is his issue. And jealousy and strife has gotten a hold of him. And he's ate up with it. So the next time he's around his brother and he thinks he's got this opportunity, he kills his brother. Sin, look at me, sin will change your life.
Right.
That's what the devil doesn't tell you. The devil always paints a rosy picture. That temptation looks so good, but it doesn't tell you what the problem's going to be after the fact. Right? It doesn't show you the stuff that's in the meth, in the needle, the stuff that they're not telling you about. Maybe they don't even know, the person that sells it to you don't even know what's in there. When you do that one time, how many times have we seen that, Brian? You're gone.
Amen.
Life's snuffed out.
Mercy.
You make that phone call, you follow through with it, you go out and meet some character somewhere you really don't know that well, you've been talking to them on Facebook. You go out and have a relationship with them, you get my drift.
Right.
End up with a disease.
Right.
Guess what? Dairy Dude's going to find out. And you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Right.
Goes away. Life's never the same. Kids that loved you now don't want to be around you. Sin's knocking at the door.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to play tiddlywinks.
That's right.
Want to destroy you, want to kill you. The thief comes but to steal, kill, and destroy. Am I telling the truth? Somebody needs to hear this today, because the Lord wants to help you to wake up to what's going on. He said, because you've done this, your life's never going to be the same. You're never going to have success. Remember what his success was, what his work was, what his labor was. He was going to till the field. He was going to see the fruit. And the Lord said, it's never going to be the same for you.
Right.
How many's ever, I don't want you to raise your hand, suffered the consequence from your sin that changed your life? Is it real?
Yes.
Did you regret it? Every man is tempted, James said, when he's drawn away of his own lust and enticed. When lust hath conceived,
Right.
it brings forth sin. See, Satan only works with what you give him. I want you to really listen to this. If Eve wasn't standing there looking at the tree, thinking about how she wanted to be like God and have a greater understanding, if she wasn't already thinking about that,
Right.
the devil wouldn't have had any ammunition. But because she was standing there looking at it, she was heeding to that temptation. What should she have done? The Bible said, resist the devil and he will. She should have said, you know what? That looks attractive to me. I'm going to be honest. That looks attractive to me, but I'm going to shut the door to that and I'm going to walk the other way.
That's it. Amen.
Because I don't need that.
Right.
I treasure my relationship with God. I want to be close to God. I want to have a closeness that I can feel with God. I don't want to have to be ashamed and run away. Can't you see what will happen after the fact?
That's right. Mercy.
Do you know what it feels like after the fact? Most of you do. You get so messed up, you're going to run and hide. Some of you are running today. This is as hard as you can run. God brought you back. That's good. You heard a message you needed to hear. This is James, though. Let's go there while we're here. We've got just a minute or two. Let's go to the book of James. James here is the brother of Jesus. Do you recognize that? It's not James the apostle. This is James, the brother of Jesus. time is, okay, I got it. This is what James said. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. But each of us is tempted when he's drawn away of his own lust, desires, and enticed. Then when desire is conceived, or lust is conceived, it brings birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death. The wages of sin is what? Death. And the worst death of all, can somebody tell me what the worst death of all is? It's not natural death. It's spiritual death. Where you're cut off from God. Do not be deceived, my beloved brethren. Every good and every perfect gift is from above. And it comes down from the Father of lights, whom there is no variance or shadow of turning. Of his own will he brought forth in us by the word of truth, that we might be a kind of first fruits of his creatures, or his creation. Now, if we're not careful, we'll miss this. What it's saying with God, there is no variance with God. He's the same how yesterday, today, and forever. There's no shadow of turning. There's no variance with God. God is always holy, always will be holy. So when you get connected to God, the expectation of his bride, of him toward his bride, is his bride will remain faithful and holy. Does that make sense to you? See, we don't think about that. We don't think about his love toward us, our relationship toward him through that love, and how important it is to him that he has a bride without spot or wrinkle or any such thing. If you had a heart toward that, listen, it would change your life. You wouldn't do some of the things you do. Okay? The little woman that had the coins and she lost one. Why did she get so upset and turn the house upside down and ask for help that she could find one? Because it was her dowry. And because she lost one meant that she wasn't paying attention. She wasn't treasuring that relationship enough. So when the bridegroom was going to come, he would find her unprepared. Look at what we've done with the treasure that we've been given in life. Look at how we've treated this relationship with God. Haven't we been like Cain and just raised up something and said, this is good enough? You're going to take that and you're going to love it because it comes from me. That's what my wife finally taught me about Christmas. Remember me telling you that story? My mom, I thought loved everything that I would give her just because it come from me. So we were Christmas shopping one year and I was just going through and I said, I think I'll get Mom that. She said, you know what? She said, don't you want to put more thought into it than that? I said, Mom will love it because it come from me. And my wife looked at me and said, she's going to love it when you put thought into it. And it come from your heart and it was the right thing that she'd been asking. Because she's been hinting about this for some time. Didn't you pay attention to what she said? And look at me. But she remembered. Said, why don't we do this? Right? And I was everybody's champion. It was all Trish's idea. Mom's not here, so I can say that. Okay. So we just don't throw things together with God. We have to prioritize it. And again, the big thing is that we keep the relationship solid. That's the first thing. Because then it's easy to keep sin on the other side of the door. Right? Makes it easy. Now, the last story I'm going to talk to you about, and we're going to close in just a second here, is one that most of us know, but I wanted to rehearse it to you, just a little part of it. And it was the story about David. Remember where David come from. Remember, David was the king worshiper. He was the little shepherd boy that rose to kingship because he had the heart of God.
Right.
The heart of God is so important.
Right. Amen.
I don't know where you're at, but I pray that you find the heart of God. That you start asking after God. God, what do you think? What do you feel? What do you want?
Yes.
And start seeking after God and start loving on God and just have the heart of God. Because that's when the thing all turns for you. Listen, I got to get you away from this religious idea that it's all about church. No, it's all about God. 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 You're going to find out it's all about God's love. It's about having that closeness with Him. And feeling His presence, not just coming and doing and being entertained. It's about feeling God, loving on God, and having love on you. That's when all of this is going to change for you. So when you find that, wow, then all this other stuff that we're talking about, like the baptism of the Holy Spirit, it's just going to come natural. All that's just going to come natural because you love God and God loves you.
Right.
And it just feels good to be in the presence of God.
Right.
Before long, it just sweeps over you, and you're weeping uncontrollably, and your lip is quivering, and you're under the presence of the Holy Spirit. Can't nobody tell you that that ain't real when it happens to you. Because you know that you know that you know. That's God. That wasn't me. Talked to somebody the other day and said, boy, I felt that coming down my spine when you said, yeah, that's the Lord. That's what God does. You start talking about the goodness of Jesus.
Yes.
And all that He's done. Yeah.
Right.
Start to get all excited in the Lord.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. It's good. Good stuff. All right. David, as he grew up, God put him in the throne room around the former king, King Saul. God had prepared the way for him to be in places and have absolute carte blanche ability to raise up from where he was to be king over all the nation. God brought the battle to him so he could be a conqueror and was known as a champion. That was all God. David becomes king. There's something that happens with success. Listen, some of you crave success, but you're putting the cart before the horse. If your life is not about earthly success, your treasure's not here on the earth. Where is it? It's in heaven. And then listen, you're successful when you're doing the will of God. That's when you're successful. Don't ever forget that. When you start looking at the things of the world and you start to think about how all that this belongs to you, you're already messed up. It doesn't all belong to you. It belongs to Him. And you are His.
That's right.
So as time went on, David, something happened in his heart. It was time for the kings to go to war. I don't know where Joab went to him and said, now David, I've got this one. Or David said, you know what, I got this great guy, he can lead the armies, I'm just going to let him do it. Something happened. So David knew that leadership, the value of leadership is for leaders to lead. And the place of a king during the time of battle was to lead the troops.
Right.
Not for a general, but for the king. So David says, you know what? You go and direct the troops. I'm going to hang out here. I'm going to do my king thing. Right? Again, look at this. What am I doing? I'm checking my spiritual pulse. Where's my life been in the last few months? Am I moving forward or am I going backward? Where's this at with God? And I went, yo, for my pulse, that's good. Wow. I realized I had such a good pulse. I'm alive! Okay. Anyway, all right. So it's time for the kings to go to battle. And David said, I'm gonna hang back. I think I got this one. It's good to be king. It's good to be king. I don't want to go out there and have to sleep outside. My 10 days are over. I can say amen to that. Don't put me in a tent and make me sleep on the ground. I can't do it. Huh? Can I hear an amen from somebody? My days of camping on the ground are past. David said, I don't want to go out and sweat. I'd rather be here in the air conditioning.
That's right.
I just got a new chariot. I want to try it out before the warranty runs out on it. You know how they are down there at the plant. They're hard to get them in when you need to get them fixed. So come up with every reason in the world why we don't have to do God's will. We come up with all kinds of excuses. But what it amounts to is our priorities are not right. And we're allowing the devil to stand at the door and knock, and we're giving some credence to the fact he's there. Not understanding that his purpose is to destroy God's will in our life. So we're playing the part of a fool. Look at me. If you're there, you know it right now. The Holy Spirit's making you aware of that. You're being played a fool. I see. You're playing games, and you're not going to win.
That's right.
Where did I tell you it starts to go wrong? With your worship. With your priorities with God. With your relationship with God. That's where it starts going wrong. That's the first thing, man. We can blame everything on the devil. And you see the results of sin, you say how ugly it is, but it starts to get ugly when you lose out with God.
Right.
So David is at home when he should have been in battle. Could he have made a different choice? Could he at any time say, wait a minute, I don't feel right by this. I need to get back out there with my troops. The thing is, it's not too late for you. You're here today, and the Holy Spirit is speaking to you, and it's not too late for you. You don't have to fall to that. I don't know what it is you're going through. I don't know what it is the devil's trying to kill you with. I don't know where your temptation lies. You do. But God's trying to help you. So now, it's the accepted time. Now, today is the day of salvation. Now's the time to say, I'm going to turn that around. I hear you, God. I hear you. I know you come to talk to me. You're taking your time right now. Chewing on my ear a little bit. Okay. So David stirs in the night. Maybe he's thinking, I think I'll just walk out here and observe my king. Maybe he had a little spirit of naughtiness that stirred in him. Oh, I'm going to get down to the province, bro. You ready for this? I'm going to get up and click the on button on the computer. We don't even have to do that. We got a little one that sits by her bed at night on the charger. Got to get up and go pee.
Like it is.
You know why it hurts so bad? You know why it hurts so bad? It's because it's so real.
That's it. Right.
It's happening in home after home, life after life.
That's right. Amen.
It's not this. It could be a bottle in the cabinet you snuck in and put it under something.
Right. Amen.
And I know we always want to think it's the men. Guys, you better wake up and smell the coffee.
Right.
Oh, it's the guys that's having trouble with that kind of stuff.
Right.
But you play games with the devil, you're going to lose.
That's it. Right.
When he's out there, don't be surprised that that thing is going to get so obvious. Listen, it ought to scare you to death. Why did that pop up on your phone? Why did that pop up on your computer?
Right.
Why did it happen the way it happened? Why was the guy that you're tempted with at your workplace, why did he look at you the way he did?
Right.
Why did he say the things he said? Why did that woman have to be out there at that time of night?
Right.
Say it with me, it's a setup.
Right.
Lust conceives, it brings forth sin.
Right. That's right.
And when it's finished, brings forth death.
Right.
I wonder if you'd had a conversation with David a year later, what he would have said. Because by the time a year later it happened, he had murdered his friend. He had disgraced himself in the front of all of the kingdom.
Right. That's right.
And he lost a son. Hey, David, was it worth it?
Never.
Not only did that happen, he was told, the sword will not ever leave your family.
Right. That's right.
So his son was having incest with his daughter.
Right.
One son murdered the other son.
Right.
One son tried to take him from off the throne.
Right.
David, was it worth it? Have mercy on me, God,
Right.
according to your loving kindness.
Yes.
Don't take your spirit from me.
Right.
Restore to me the joy of thy salvation.
Yes.
That was his prayer.
Yes.
David, was it worth it? I would to God
Mercy.
I went back to bed that night.
Right.
My life changed forever. Heads bowed, eyes closed.